I don't know what to say anymore. 4 40-point games in the Arizona Cardinals' last 6 games. At some point, enough is enough for Jonathan Gannon, and yesterday just might have been that breaking point. Let's talk about that and much more in this edition of the Ben Garcia Show.
The Ben Garcia Show. Yeah. Woo. Best show in the land. Yup. Listen. Come and get your information from Ben Garcia. Get the latest on your quarterback, running backs, and receivers. Tune in, so any other show you don't need them. Any news that he giving out, please just believe him. Giving out the latest prediction and top-notch analysis. Wanna hear the truth, better have thick skin like calluses. The latest move that your team just made can be damaging. The dudes ain't speaking no facts, they just be rambling. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. Yeah. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. The Ben Garcia Show.
What is up, and welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. However you are listening, wherever you are listening, thank you so much for making myself and this show a part of your day. Do me a favor, hit that like, hit that share, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for joining me on this Monday morning. Quick disclaimer. This will take 30 seconds. Clearly, I'm still not completely healthy, but I apologize for missing the show on Friday. Legitimately, I had no voice. Like, I could not speak. But as you guys know, I've obviously been sick a lot over the past couple weeks. I guess it's just me getting ready for having a kid when, kids are always sick. So I apologize. I will always power through being sick if I can. But I legitimately didn't even have a voice. So if I stop the mic for a second or take a drink of water, it's because I literally need to. So with that being said, let's dive deep into this terrible, excruciating, ridiculous, and embarrassing Arizona Cardinals loss. And let's do it now. I had to get my courtesy cough out of the way. So yesterday, the Arizona Cardinals lost to the Houston Texans in a game that was very predictable. And why was it predictable? Well, it was predictable in the sense that we thought this team was going to lose because, they gave up 10 sacks, 7 sacks, and the Houston Texans didn't allow them to move the ball all game long. That's actually not what happened. I thought this team was going to lose because Paris Johnson Jr. doesn't play, because they have one basically starting lineman, in that being Yoda Froholt, as Isaiah Adams was a guy who got benched for Will Hernandez later on in the year. But it was, the total plays, both 63-63, total yardage, the Texans outgained them by a decent amount. Yards per play, 6.3, favoring the Texans over the Cardinals 5. And it wasn't a game where the Texans just dominated them defensively. It continuously comes down, and it was the Texans had more penalties. The Cardinals were doing the right thing in terms of penalties. But it came down to coaching. I know I've defended Jonathan Gannon, and I think my defenses have been fair. I think that the way people are talking about the Cardinals is incredibly toxic. I think if you go on social media and try to have an opinion on this team, it is ridiculously hard to do so. And I'm actually kind of disappointed in other content creators, in other bigger shows than mine, when they discuss the job security of Jonathan Gannon. And the reasoning why I say that is, I think it's really unfair the way that some people are handling the way the Arizona Cardinals are being coached and how their season is going right now. I think it is totally fair if you want to say Jonathan Gannon should be fired. Totally fair. I am not someone who is going to come on here and tell you that Jonathan Gannon should not lose his job. However, there are clear reasons why this team is not progressing the way we thought they would. There are clear reasons why this team is worse than we imagined. There are clear reasons, and some of them have nothing to do with Jonathan Gannon. If I told you the Arizona Cardinals were going to be having the second hardest strength of schedule and the most players on injury reserved, you would probably not give this team that high of a shot to be a very competitive team. Now, there's the argument of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been injured and their season's falling apart. And the San Francisco 49ers have been injured and now have gotten healthier at the right time. Brock Purdy is back. Juwan Jennings is back. Christian McCaffrey played yesterday. What I will say is, it does feel like enough is starting to be enough for Jonathan Gannon. Yesterday can't happen for the fourth time in the last 6 weeks. I'm not going to fire Jonathan Gannon because the defense isn't great, because they're not trying, because, whatever. I am starting to lean towards firing Jonathan Gannon because of how ill prepared they look week in and week out. We saw Jonathan Gannon in year one play teams tooth and nail, incredibly hard-nosed in that first year of JG. Last year was the same exact way. But now they have fallen off a cliff. They are not competitive. They are a dead team walking into opposing arenas. And so I think I'm ready to make the switch of firing Jonathan Gannon when I was originally not in that realm. But I'm also willing to say I'm okay with firing Jonathan Gannon, but also knowing it's probably not going to change much. It's probably not going to change much. And the typical Cardinal fan will tell me, well, why would you say that? They're getting blown out. Cardinals have always been getting blown out. This is not a new thing. And we've been firing coaches for years. Why is firing this one going to change anything? And no, I'm not sure there's a better head coach out there that the Cardinals could hire for Jonathan Gannon. I don't think that there's that guy out there. And the reasoning why I say that is we got a list of candidates for the Cardinals a couple of weeks ago. And it was filled with a bunch of guys who have already been fired before, who have no head coaching experience, and aren't exactly wow candidates. So I will agree that firing Jonathan Gannon is probably the way to go, while also acknowledging it's probably not going to change much. This team feels like they need a franchise savior to save them. But as much as I want to be on the side of saving Jonathan Gannon's job, it can't look like it looks like right now. It can't look like what it looks like right now. Yesterday, immediately falling behind 17-0, 10-0 is just a recipe for disaster. How do you come into these games and immediately give up a Nico Collins touchdown, which, by the way, had nothing to do with injuries? Garrett Williams just looks bad. Budda Baker was the safety on that. He was late. Yeah, are they playing more single high coverages because they don't have Rabbit Taylor Demerson or they don't have Jalen Thompson? Sure. But they're still getting beat. And injuries can't be an excuse for everything. So I think if you feel strong about it either way, I think you have a clear bias. Like, I haven't looked at the chat, but let's look at the chat here for a second. Like right here, my guy Cards Kingdom, appreciate you being here. I haven't seen you in the chat very often, but it's good to have you in the show, man. Gannon is maybe the worst coach in NFL history. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's just, again, appreciate you watching the show. My guy Back to Constitution, appreciate you watching the show. What are we doing? What are we doing? I've seen people out there say, well, Cliff Kingsbury is a better coach. He made the playoffs. Congratulations. You made the playoffs. What people also forget is there were late season collapses every year, and that was one of the reasons why, A, they missed the playoffs the previous year, and B, why they lost the division. And then they went into a playoff game, showed up for 5 seconds, and got absolutely annihilated. They had phone breaks and snack breaks. The players didn't respect Cliff Kingsbury. That's not me guessing. That's me reporting and telling you what I heard. They didn't respect him. The players respect Jonathan Gannon. We saw Darius Robinson, who's been terrible this year, crying for Jonathan Gannon last week. Jacoby Brissett sticking up for Jonathan Gannon. So I'm just going to say this. I think I get it. I think it's time to fire Jonathan Gannon. But also I'm going to acknowledge that it's probably not going to change anything. The head coaching candidate pool is not great. It's filled with a lot of guys who have already been fired before or unproven guys who have no idea why they're head coaching candidates. Outside of a few guys like Clint Kubiak or Jeff Hafley from the Packers or even a Brian Flores or a Marcus Freeman. Like, let's just throw them in there too. Let's say all of those guys are available. Why would any of them pick the Arizona Cardinals organization? Why would any of them pick that? Like, why? The Cardinals are a second, third tier organization. And the reasoning why I've continuously argued to run it back is the coaching candidate pool is terrible. It's the worst it's been in years. Plus, this team has the most players on IR in the NFL. And plus, they have the second hardest strength of schedule. Those are not excuses. Those are reasons. But I get it. You can't have 40 points in the last 6 weeks. You can't be the 27th ranked points per game defense. That's Jonathan Gannon's side of the ball. Like, I have started to shift more blame to JG, saying that it's probably time to fire him, but also acknowledge, what are you going to do better? Like my guy in the chat, who I really respect, good dude Javi. Players only respect Gannon because he allows them to do what they want. That's not what I was going to say from Javi, but Javi, what are we doing here, man? We're just guessing at that point. There's no point, or there's nothing there that proves that is true. And I have not heard that either. My guy Javi in the chat, it was in here earlier. I can't find it here, but that's okay. He said something like, Ben, how could you, oh, here it is. Explain why you're afraid to move on from Gannon. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid to move on from absolutely anything. What I'm telling you are reasons. Fans are reactionary. This has never been a fan show. This is why I believe people watch this show. This is why I believe my content, my social media platform, myself has really had a great year in terms of opinions, in terms of sports takes, in terms of the job that I do. Because people, I think, really respect the fact that I speak my mind and I say exactly how I feel. But I just read to you the head coaching pool. And no, I'm not throwing John Gruden, who hasn't won anywhere in 20 years, on this list of decent candidates. But who are you looking at in this coaching cycle, and you're saying, oh, that is definitely better than Jonathan Gannon? That is definitely better than what the Arizona Cardinals have rolling right now. There's not. There's not a guy out there that is clearly better than what the Arizona Cardinals are rolling out. Per Diana Rossini of The Athletic, who put out the list just a couple of weeks ago of the Arizona Cardinals, of the NFL potential coaching candidates, the list was bleak. It was not a list of candidates that you can say to yourself, oh yeah, you can hang your hat on them. Those are players that you can say to yourself, oh yeah, now it's going to get figured out, because it's just not. And the list that was put out, which I'm trying to find right now, and I guess I should have had it ready on me right away, but it was a bleak list. And it was Chris Shula, the Rams defensive coordinator, who, I mean, I guess sure, but do you really want to go the defensive route yet again for this team? I don't think so. I think if you're going to hire a head coach, you're going to hire an offensive guy to help develop your next quarterback. Who is that? Who is that? Someone explain to me who you're willing to say, yep, that player is better, or that coach is better. I don't know. Like, it's not there. If you fire Jonathan Gannon, you're hiring an offensive guy, and there's no one out there that you feel great about that you would say to yourself is going to come to Arizona. Like I see in the chat, how about Vance Joseph as head coach? How about no? Vance Joseph, fired before, has, had, has been the Cardinals DC. I remember distinctly Cardinals fans complaining about Vance Joseph's defense. Like, we got to stop, guys. We've got to stop. Matt LaFleur, he worked with Stafford. Is that all we're quantifying as a good head coach, Javi? Like, I don't want to make the whole show just me arguing with Javi. But you guys are proving my point. There is no clear better candidate. I will concede with you that it is probably time to fire Jonathan Gannon, because you can't have 4 40-point games in the last 6 losses. They're not just losing. They're ill-prepared. The defense is terrible. They average 27 points per game defensively. And they look ill-prepared. And they walk into games knowing they're losing. But what I will continue to tell you is this team has not given up on Jonathan Gannon. Yeah, they gave up 40 points yesterday. 40 points doesn't equal not trying. That just equals them sucking, which you can also point to, oh, well, they have the most players on IR in the NFL. They have the second hardest strength of schedule. If I told you that at the beginning of the year, you would have said to yourself, okay, they're probably not a very good team. So although I will concede to you that firing Jonathan Gannon is no longer the wrong decision, what I will say is, and try to challenge you, is what are you doing to bring in a better candidate? Because you're not going defensive coordinator again. It didn't work, and it hasn't worked. Who's the best offensive guy that you believe will come to your second, third tier organization? Who? Like, you want to go with Mike LaFleur, who, hasn't played, has never been a coordinator? Or, I'm sorry, I guess I should say has never called plays? You want to go with the guy Mike LaFleur, who's never called plays? Do you want to go with Clint Kubiak, if he would even go to your organization? Who, by the way, was fired from the Texans and the Saints. Like, it is the way people talk about the Cardinals right now is so toxic because you can't point out clear reasons why they're losing without fans saying, well, look at his record. And then it's the same fans that say, see, Kyler Murray was scapegoated. And it's like, look at his record. He's 10 games under 500. He has not proven he's a good quarterback to this point in his career. He has not proven that. Even worse, he hasn't proven he's a consistent enough quarterback. Like, it's the same people that point to Jonathan Gannon's record, but then will defend Kyler Murray, who is 10 games under 500 as a quarterback. This team is not close right now. And I don't know how much of it is Jonathan Gannon. I don't know. Like, you guys want me to go Twitter brain, see what everyone else says, and just copy that. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do an ounce more of research. I don't think it's all Gannon, but I'll concede with you that I'm okay with firing him because the team looks atrocious. But you want to head on a silver plate and say, you want a plate and you want to head on it. You want someone's head to roll. But there's no backup plan. There's none. And like the John Gruden thing, I see people sometimes throwing out there. He hasn't won anywhere in 20 years. He was terrible with the Raiders. I'd argue the only Super Bowl he won, he did it with Tony Dungy's team. And that was 1 billion years ago. There's no clear backup plan. So fire him. Fire him. I don't care. Because I'm not going to sit here and act like Gannon isn't part of the problem. The point is, we have much bigger problems here. Why can't players stay healthy? Why can't regardless of what the Arizona Cardinals do, they can't get it figured out? Why? I don't know. And people acting like on social media, they have all the answers. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. The real respectable thing to do is to say, probably fire Jonathan Gannon. And this team, I don't know what's wrong with him. The only thing I have in front of me is they are incredibly injured, the most injured team in the NFL, and have the second hardest strength of schedule. And people say to themselves, well, the 49ers have been injured, and yet they're in the playoffs. First off, they're healthy now. Secondly, they have one of the worst schedules in the NFL. If I'm not mistaken, they have the worst strength of schedule in the NFL. And you want to use them as the litmus test? Like, guys, I love you. Thank you for watching the show. Do an ounce of research. Do an ounce. I've already told you, fire Gannon. That's fine. Fire him. I don't care. He has not done enough to save his job. But also acknowledge firing Jonathan Gannon probably ain't going to save this organization. You want to know how I know? We've already fired head coaches before. And I look at the list of candidates and I say, what's going to be better? What is definitely going to be better? I'll tell you what, man. It's scary times. My guy Javi in the chat, Ben, okay, by your logic, oh God. Javi, I love you, man. But I can already tell this is not, I haven't read the comment. I can already tell it's not going to be logical. Okay, by your logic, give Gannon an extension since you don't see anyone better. By next year, he's gone. when there's no, why would I give him an extension? Just let his contract run out next year. Like, did you not hear me say 2 seconds ago, fire him? He hasn't done enough to save his job. Did you hear that? 2 seconds ago. Don't give him an extension. Let him coach it out next year. My guy, Brian Abdullah in the chat, who always lets me have it on social media if I'm being a dummy, as he should. Do you think Gannon acts like he is coaching for his job? No. Like, you want me to tell you what I think is going to happen? You want me to tell you what I think is going to happen, Brian, as I propel us into the next part of this? And honestly, guys, I might save the Joe Burrow stuff for Wednesday. It just feels like that's probably the best case for the Arizona Cardinals right now. I think I probably am gonna save that stuff for Wednesday because I do think there's a clear chance the Cardinals can get that guy, but I just want to but I also don't want to rush through it. And besides, I'm already late to the trend. I might as well talk about it on Wednesday instead of right now. But so I'm probably going to save that. But you guys want me to tell you what I think is going to happen? What I think is going to happen, putting together the reporting. I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to fire Jonathan Gannon. I just don't think so. I do not think they're going to fire Jonathan Gannon. Here is what I think is going to happen. I think putting together the reporting that Jonathan Gannon is safe, and then the other reporting that says Jonathan Gannon is not safe, and then putting together there's going to be major changes. This has all been put out by a few different people. I'm going to put together the entire sourcing and give you my honest take to it. Just so we're clear, this is not what I think the Arizona Cardinals should do. This is what I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to do. I think this team is going to go full Philadelphia Eagles circa 2023. I think when the Eagles were doing this up and up thing and then ended up kind of crashing back down to earth, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm still sick and I can not get a grip on myself. So I appreciate you guys hanging with me this morning. So I think the Arizona Cardinals, instead of firing Jonathan Gannon, are going to fire both offensive and defensive coordinators, move on from Kyler Murray, and that's going to be served as your heads rolling big change in the organization. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying what I think is going to happen. I believe Nick Rawlis and Drew Petzing are going to fall on the sword. Well, I believe Nick Rawlis, Drew Petzing, and Kyler Murray are all going to fall on the sword. I think Jonathan Gannon is safe. And I think from what you're seeing from Jonathan Gannon himself, who is not freaking out in press conferences, is still taking on all the blame, is still defending this team, it tells me he doesn't feel the heat. Coaches who are about to get fired start to blame shift. But he hasn't been doing that, which tells me he thinks his job is safe. I think Michael Bidwell, who is notoriously cheap and doesn't want to pay 3 different head coaches at the same time, is going to say to Gannon, get rid of your offensive and defensive coordinators, find a different set of coaches, get rid of Kyler Murray, and run it back next year with a new head coach, with a new OC, DC, and quarterback. And they're going to serve that to you as their heads rolling, this season was unacceptable, and hope that you take it. And what I will say is, then Michael Bidwell can say, Jonathan Gannon doesn't call the plays. Jonathan Gannon is purely a head coach / leader. And that's why we've seen from players come out emotionally supporting Jonathan Gannon, whether it's Darius Robinson, whether it's Jacoby Brissett, whether it's other players, Calais Campbell. They have consistently backed their guy in Jonathan Gannon. And Michael Bidwell is going to say, see, he's the leader. This team has real leadership. He is not the reason why the season fell apart. It was the coordinators. It was the quarterback. And they're going to serve that to you and hope you accept it. I'm going to stand firm on this. Guys, I don't think Jonathan Gannon is losing his job. Whether you think he should, whether I think he should, it doesn't matter. This comes down to Michael Bidwell, who I think is going to find coordinators to blame. Find coordinators to blame, not the head coach. So I'm just telling you guys, man. It's much more deeper than this surface level. We'll just fire the head coach. Guys, for the first time in my career, I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know. Like, I know the defense sucks, but is that injuries or is it coaching? I know the offense isn't great. They had one starting offensive lineman yesterday in Yoda Frohold. I don't know, man. I'm exhausted from the dialogue. No one can just give and take. And I feel like I've done that. I feel like, especially me saying today, move on from Jonathan Gannon. I feel like that's me saying to all of you, like, I get it. Like, I get it. It hasn't been acceptable. My guy, Michael Bidwell, or I'm sorry, my guy, Mike Evans in the chat. Will Bidwell run it back because of the money? Probably. Cheap ass owner, man. My guy back to Constitution. Boycott, the Cardinals now. This sucks for me. Like, I want people watching the show, but I'm not going to tell fans to watch this garbage bleep product. It's terrible. It's terrible. You got better stuff to do. And I don't blame you. My guy, Cards Kingdom, I'm not sure if he's talking to me. The defense had 9 starters yesterday. You just asked if it's injuries. I'm assuming he's not talking to me because I didn't mention injuries being a part of it at all yesterday. But I think you guys are just fighting. I think you guys are just fighting in the chat. But hey, look at that. Aaron Glenn fired his defensive coordinator. Cardinals legend Steve Wilkes. So that's interesting. How about some bright spots from yesterday? Here are the positives from the Cardinals game yesterday. Michael Wilson continues to be a man amongst boys. That's a really good defensive backfield. And in the second half, he torched them again. He's aggressive. He eye points the ball. He runs crisp routes. It's everything we want to see from Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think there's a real wide receiver 1 battle next year in training camp. Also, Walter Nolan feels like a hit of a draft pick. He looks great. He looks phenomenal. He was like on a field with Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, and Walter Nolan. He looked like the best defensive lineman yesterday, continuously creating havoc. That dude is going to be great for years to come. And then lastly, credit to the offensive line. Only 2 sacks yesterday on a team that threw the ball 40 times. So like what I'll say to that is I'll negate 1 sack because it's 40 times dropping back. So from the Cardinals offensive line to Walter Nolan to Michael Wilson, there were some positives yesterday. My guy, Cards Kingdom, you just said that, right? Now Cardinals, you said the defense is bad. Yes, you're right. I did say the defense is bad over the last 6 weeks. I didn't just say yesterday. Like, I don't know. Do you want to know why, Cheat Cards Kingdom? Let's do a statistic, because I know sometimes those aren't super popular on the Twitter streets. After 5 weeks, when the Cardinals defense was mostly healthy, they were a top 5 points per game defense. You know what that tells me? Defense was pretty good against teams like the Seahawks and the Niners, right? Everyone's favorite Niners team, or the Panthers. Like, they were playing actual teams, and it was a top 5 defense, statistically speaking. But when you lose a bunch of different players and there's no continuity, that matters. It's not everything, but it matters. So, like, dude, I'm not using the injury excuse. I'm just telling you, I don't know what it is. And for you to act like, or any of you, not just going at Cards Kingdom, probably a great dude. For anyone to act like they know exactly what's wrong, I bet you knew exactly what was wrong with the last regime and the one before that and the one before that. They are fundamentally broken, and I'm not sure right now how to fix them. With that being said, guys, I'm losing my voice. I can't keep going after it. But I appreciate you guys being here. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. And tell me why I'm wrong on there. Appreciate you guys. Stay safe. Have a heck of a week. I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday, where we'll actually talk some Joe Burrow stuff. Talk soon.